Newspaper files of the early West record many stories of famous and notorious characters of that period. Nate Champion, a fugitive from most of the southwestern states, moved on to Wyoming in 1892. He became one of the most feared big-scale cattle rustlers in history and struck a savage blow against Wyoming's struggle for survival.
Just because a guy gets himself a bad name, he gets blamed for everything that happens.
The name, Nate Champion, stands for rustling. And Colorado's got no room for rustlers, Nate.
But you haven't got an ounce of proof I ever stole so much as one flea-bitten calf since I got here.
If we had proof, you'd be leaving town in a hearse, not a stagecoach.
You might as well string me up now as put me on that Texas-New Mexico stage. Why not put me on the Wyoming stage? She's coming in now.
Well, I don't suppose it matters much as long as you leave Colorado. But you keep on. You're gonna run out of states. Howdy, Ed. This gentleman expressed a desire to go to Wyoming, so the Cattlemen's Association wants to treat him to the trip. You better stay in Wyoming. Be a lot better for your health.
Go, Shorty, here.
Lungs? Well, I heard your friend from the Cattlemen's Association make reference to your health.
Oh, yes.
I'm on my way to Wyoming for my health, too. The climate in England gets more beastly every year. Oh, sorry, Joan. My name's Roger Benton.
Joe Baker.
How do you do? Joan, may I have the honor to present Mr. Joseph Baker?
How do you do, Mr. Baker?
Mr. Baker, Miss Joan Jameson.
Oh, I figured she was your daughter.
No, my ward, the daughter of my late partner. I've been promising to discover a cowboy for her ever since we passed the Alleghenies. You look as though you might qualify, Mr. Baker.
Well, I've handled a few head of cattle in my day.
You're not a cattle buyer by chance?
Why, yes.
Well, here I am on my way to the ranch I've acquired near Casper. I need someone to acquire cattle to stock it, and I meet an experienced cattle buyer. I call that a real stroke of luck.
Oh, I do hope you'll help us, Mr. Baker. Mr. Benton doesn't know a steer from a giraffe.
Well, don't ask me to round up any giraffes for you, Mr. Benton. But you can count on me for the steers.
Well...
It didn't take Nate Champion long to surround himself with a band of other desperate men and to start obtaining cattle for the Benton Ranch.
Do you think it's safe just to rustle from the Great Western outfit?
Sure it is. Besides, some of their 2- and 3-year-olds have never been branded. We got to be positive there are no Great Western brands on any of the cattle we deliver to Benton. Drive that whole herd over to old man Riley's place and examine every single one of them, you understand?
Right.
Come on.
On April the 2nd, 1892, the Great Western Cattle Company, as a direct result of the wholesale rustling, canceled its contract to supply the railroad construction camps in Wyoming with beef.
Are you the railroad company detectives I was supposed to meet out here?
That's right. I'm Matt Clark. This is Miss Jones, my partner.
Howdy.
I take it you're Sheriff Smith.
That's right.
Glad to know you.
How are you? You folks come all the way out here to serve as pallbearers at the railroad's funeral?
Well, I hope not. You can't keep a crew building a railroad unless you give them 3 square meals a day.
There's only enough meat to feed them for another week.
You expect to find out who the rustlers are in that length of time?
Yeah, we've got to.
Yeah, I wish you luck.
What happened to those branded steers we put in the corral last night?
I don't know.
I told you I wanted them driven 1 billion miles from here. It could kill the whole deal if just one head of branded cattle got mixed in with my delivery to Benton.
What are you worrying about? All of Benton's hands work for you. If they'd have noticed any...
I don't want advice, I want an answer. Now, what happened to him? Who opened that gate?
I did.
Why?
When you told me you were going to use my place, you didn't say anything about running stolen cattle into my pens.
You can get us in a lot of trouble talking like that.
Who said they were stolen?
I got eyes in my head. I know a Great Western brand when I see it.
You might have made a mistake.
I might have. What I didn't.
Oh, yes, you did. A great big one. But luckily, we can erase that.
Well, I would have said it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, Matt, but that's Great Western beef, all right.
Yeah. Whose line are we on now, Sheriff?
Englishman named Benton. He just moved in about a month ago and started stocking the place.
With Great Western cattle, maybe, huh?
He had $75,000 in the Casper Bank before he started buying. I checked on that.
Well, it sure wouldn't hurt to have a little talk with him.
His ranch house is just over that first ridge. I got no suspicion to take me there.
Actually, there's no sense in alarming Benton by having more than one of us call on him.
Well, I'm good at arithmetic, Matt. I'll see you back in town.
There are no fences in this district, Mr. Clark. As far as I know, some of my cattle may have roamed as far as Great Western's grazing land.
How many head of cattle do you own, Mr. Benton?
About 1,000.
1,000 head, huh? That's a mighty big herd to accumulate in such a short time, Mr. Benton. I was under the impression that blizzards last winter caused a severe cattle shortage in Wyoming.
It so happens that mine were brought in from New Mexico.
1,000 head of cattle brought up from New Mexico in a month through all those spring floods.
I don't know what you're getting at, Mr. Clark, but I paid cash for every animal on my ranch.
You have receipts, of course.
Not in my personal possession. My cattle buyer keeps them.
What's his name?
Mr. Joe Baker, but...
Where can I find him?
Maybe you ought to search the house for him, or declare martial law or something and arrest everyone on the ranch.
Now, Joan, this is no concern of yours.
Miss Jameson, I have no intentions of arresting anyone. All I want to do is find Mr. Baker and get everything cleared up.
There's nothing to clear up. I think it perfectly dreadful that Mr. Benton has to stand for being questioned, like some sort of a criminal.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clark. I'll have the receipts here for you by tomorrow if you'll call back.
Thank you very much, sir.
And don't mind Joan. Just a little girlish temper, you know.
Where are you going?
To Mr. Baker's hotel. That railroad detective asked a lot of questions that only he can answer.
But I don't think he's staying there anymore. He said something about moving.
I'll inquire around till I find him if it takes all day.
Oh, surely you don't harbor any suspicions of Mr. Baker?
More than suspicions, my dear. I'm afraid we've been victimized by a ruthless crook.
You ought to be an authority on the subject of crooks.
What are you talking about?
About a crook who could afford to come to America and buy a cattle ranch after his partner died penniless.
Well, you should know that the firm your father and I own went into bankruptcy.
And who put it into bankruptcy?
In a way you did, Joan. While I was ill, your father was so busy trying to keep you out of trouble, he had no time left for business. The money I've invested here was an inheritance.
The Benton family money.
That's right. Someday it may be yours.
Yes, someday, if you approve of everything I do. But by that time, your money won't mean anything to me. I'll be too old to enjoy it.
I don't know what's brought this out in the open so suddenly, Joan. But I want you to know that regardless of your attitude, I intend to provide for you for the rest of my life.
You have. Please don't bother being formal, Mr. Baker.
How did you stumble across this place?
People don't stumble when they know where they're going. I followed one of our ranch hands over here one day when he came to report to you.
Your ranch hands certainly don't report to me. But you did find your way here, and this is no sort of a place for a nice young lady. It'll be getting dark soon.
Oh, now don't you give me that little girl routine. I've had to put up with that ever since I left England.
Why did you come here?
Oh, I thought you might like to know there was a detective at the ranch this afternoon. He was inquiring about the receipts for all the cattle you purchased for Mr. Benton.
Well, why didn't you say so? Got him around here someplace.
Oh, they're issuing receipts for rustled cattle now?
Rustled cattle. You've been reading too many Western stories.
Oh, now cut the dramatics. I know that you pocketed all the money Benton turned over to you.
Then why didn't you tell Benton?
Just mark it down as a good turn, Joe. And I'm not through doing you favors. I've had these ready for quite a while, just in case. All you have to do is to tell me the amounts and prices to fill in. We'll have some charming little receipts ready for Mr. Clark when he calls tomorrow.
Matt Clark, the railroad detective?
He didn't react to your name.
He doesn't know me as Joe Baker. But this is crazy. Benton's a sick man, and you helped me get his bankroll. Doesn't his money go to you if anything happens to him?
Something has happened to him. All that Benton had was family money. And I'm tired of being just a charity case.
You killed him? All right. What's your angle?
There's still over $50,000 in Benton's account at the Casper Bank.
Bank robbery's out of my line.
We don't have to do it that way. I've got a better plan.
I don't want to hear about any plan. It might sound good to me. And stringing along with women has never been my game.
Oh, but this is different. I'm only a nice little girl. Remember?
Sometimes kids grow up real fast.
You want to see me, sir?
Yeah, that's right. Are you the man who hitched up Mr. Benton's wagon yesterday?
Yes, sir. And I blame myself for what happened. But he asked for the fastest horse we had, and I'm just a hired hand.
But even a spooky horse isn't going to leave the road to go plunging down a rocky gorge.
I put blinders on the mare. Thought it'd make it easier for Mr. Benton to handle her. There was hardly enough left of the old gentleman to bury. It was horrible.
That's all, thanks.
They found these near the body, Mr. Clark. He must have ridden into town to get them.
Thank you.
Mr. Benton wasn't well enough to have taken a long ride like that.
Miss Jameson, I'm sorry if I did anything to hasten Mr. Benton's death, but you see, I've been under a terrific strain. The railroad hasn't been able to buy any cattle.
But we have about 1,000 head.
The railroad could use them. Would you sell them?
Oh, I'd be glad to. But our cattle spread over miles of grazing land.
Well, 1,000 head would certainly help out a lot. Have you got any idea how long it would take for your men to round them up?
Only a few days if I could hire men. But not having the authority to draw on my guardian's account, or even to sell the cattle, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do.
Somebody has to be empowered to run the ranch.
You know, Miss Jameson, the railroad has quite a lot of power, quite a lot of influence. I think we could arrange for you to draw out the money and sell those cattle.
Oh, you're both very kind. I know that's what Mr. Benson would have wanted me to do.
Jonesy, you better stay here and keep your eye on her.
Yes, of course.
And don't let her out of your sight for a second.
What do you mean?
It's all too pat. Benton's sudden death, his quick burial, and these receipts.
Well, they look all right to me.
Except that they've never been folded. A man would have to fold these things like this. Get them in his pocket or his wallet.
Why don't we have Benton's body exhumed?
Well, he might not even be buried in the gorge. Besides, that's a job for the sheriff. I'd rather wait a while and see how far this Joan and the cattle buyer will go.
How far do you think they'll go?
Straight to the railroad construction camp. And I'd be willing to stick around and wait until they bring us 1,000 pieces of evidence. And let's hope it won't be too long. I'll get in touch with you later.
How are you, man? What's the matter? Something bothering you?
Yeah. The construction crew is walking out. Not an ounce of meat in that chow wagon.
What happened to that big plan of yours?
We haven't got time now to wait for anybody to come to us with the evidence.
What do you want to do?
If we could get a posse together, we could turn Wyoming upside down and shake out those rustlers. Hey, did you ever find anything out on Joe Baker?
Oh, yeah. I turned up an old bulletin about some rustler that used that name as an alias. But Nate Champion's used a dozen different aliases. There's no...
Did you say Nate Champion?
Yeah. Why? Do you know him?
Yeah. I arrested him 2 years ago down in Texas for stealing cattle off a stranded freight train. Shot 2 deputies and got away. I better get out to Benton Ranch right away.
Well, I hardly think he's waiting for you out there.
Jonesy's out there. If Mr. Jameson's teamed up with Nate Champion, Jonesy might be in real trouble. Would you get the posse together for me and meet me out to Benton Ranch?
Sure.
Good.
Why don't you go take a nap? You didn't sleep at all last night.
I'm sorry I disturbed you, but, well, you really didn't have to get up every time I did.
I know I didn't have to.
If I lie down, will you take a nap?
Is there any particular reason why I should?
Yes, a very good reason. You haven't let me move an inch without you, and it's important that I ride somewhere.
Good, I'll go with you.
I'm going alone.
Well, I'd say you just won your point.
Get over to the closet. Now open the door. Get inside. Get inside!
To ride all the way into Casper to find you.
You're a little winded, aren't you, Jonesy?
Yeah, but I think I located the rustlers. I followed Joan to a little ranch just a few miles back. Enough cattle there to feed the entire state.
Did you see anybody there?
Oh, a whole gang. When I left, Joan was talking to some tall, good-looking fella.
Yeah, it sounds like Nate Champion. Where is it, Jonesy?
Oh, on a little road all by itself south of here.
Well, that sounds like old man Riley's KC ranch. I know where that is. I'll posse be at the Benton Ranch any minute. Send her my...
You must be mad. Driving off cattle worth thousands of dollars?
Worth thousands if you sell them, your life if you get caught with them.
But I told you, that detective didn't suspect me of a thing.
He will when he finds his sidekick with her head bashed in.
Oh, if you're so terrified, you should have run for dear life as soon as I got here.
It's a lot easier to outthink a man than it is to outrun him. In a few minutes, there won't be any cattle left on the place. And I can ride off real leisurely. No evidence left behind, no trouble ahead.
But you can't leave without me. They'll know right away.
What is it, Nick?
Boys say they want to talk to you.
I'll settle with them as soon as they've driven off that last bunch of cattle. Put this on my horse for me.
making a break.
Don't worry about that bunch of boys. We'll take care of them.
Sorry, chum. I hate to use this, but I couldn't find all the pieces of that vase.
You'd do better to surrender now than to wait for the posse. Come on out and eat with your hands up.
Shacks afire.
Huh? Nobody could live through that.
Yeah, maybe Nate's too tough to burn. Give me your coat, Sheriff, and keep me covered.
Oh, don't be a fool, man.
Come on, give it to me. Jameson killed Benton. And you'll find a .38 caliber bullet hole in his body if you dig him up. The rest of this has been burned. I'll get the horses. On the afternoon of April 7th, 1892, Nate Champion found death as he ran from a flaming shack. A dangerous outlaw up until the final second of his life. His accomplice, Joan Jameson, was tried and convicted of Benton's murder.
You know, we won't have this sort of trouble again.
Now, I suppose you've got a plan all worked out to stop cattle rustling.
Oh, no, just its effects on construction crews. All we have to do is find a few thousand vegetarians.